Hey, good morning and welcome to the Leadership Laboratory. Today we have Colonel Rico Jones, 1st Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade Commander. Before we get started, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
So as he stated, my name is Colonel Jones and I'm a Big Red 1 soldier, proudly serving alongside the most mentally and physically fit, inspired, trained, and disciplined soldiers in the mighty 1st Infantry Division. So born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, went to Northeast High School in KC, graduated from Lincoln University in 2002. Been married to my beautiful bride, Amanda, for 18 years, and I got six kids. Logistic officer by trade, and really the 4 F's drive me daily. The first F is faith. I believe in a higher being. Second F is family. Family is the most important thing to me. The third F is not just physical fitness, but mental fitness, being in the Army 20 plus years. And then the last F is I believe in having fun. You work hard, you play hard. But that's pretty much me.
Yeah. What advice would you give majors graduating from ILE preparing to come to an outfit?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say for a brand new major coming to any division, I would call these the top 5 things that I look for in any leader. The first is character. I think that individual talent will take you where character won't keep you. And I think that our officers, our leaders in the Army have to have good character. Their audio has to match their video. The second thing that will come to mind for a major coming to any division is the level of commitment that's going to be required of you as a professional. But not just the commitment to your job, but also the commitment to your family. Because if you don't balance those two, it's going to be tough to be successful. The third would be competence. There's a level of professionalism, a level of tactical and doctrine knowledge that we expect from a CGSC grad. And when you show up, we expect you to have that level of professionalism and to know your job. And then the last 2 things that I would say, and really officers, I think we struggle with this at times. Can you be a team player that thinks bigger than yourself? And can you be a team builder that thinks bigger than your individual organization? That'll be the advice I give to a field grade.
Most of our students, they're very concerned about balancing family and professional. It's very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Any recommendations on that?
Well, it's hard. So anybody that served with me before, they would tell you that the B word balance is like a cuss word to Colonel Jones. It's like, don't use that word. Here's what I would tell everybody that's watching. What I've learned over the years is you must establish non-negotiables with your family. So as a brigade commander, early on in command, my wife and I sat down, and she clearly understands this is a critical position for me to be in. But she said, here's a couple things that are non-negotiable for our family. You will come home and eat lunch with us once or twice a week. You will eat dinner with us once a week. You will attend church services, and you will attend all of your son's games. But what she's indirectly saying is I'm not attending practices. So my kids know as a brigade commander, based on time, I don't attend all the practices, but I'm at every game, no matter the day, no matter the time. And then for her, I had to tell her that there's going to be social events I have to attend, and there's going to be what I call shared hardship times where I have to support, CTC rotations, deployments, and things of that nature. So I think it's establishing the baseline non-negotiables, and I think it starts with good communication.
Yeah. Do you think the majors have that level of commitment? Because they look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes they put family over the military.
Yeah.
Do you see an issue with that, or?
Well, so here's what I would say. I think General McConville, he says it best, right? As you look at those life-changing events, I do think there's times to where no matter if you are at a regionally aligned, mission downrange, I think it's prudent that if you are about to have your first child, why would I not bring that person home to be there for the birth of their child? Because the Army provides opportunities to where you won't have that opportunity to come back, right? So I think where our younger majors are probably struggling at is identifying those critical moments for family and just making sure you're there. But the challenge may not be the major, though. The challenge may be the leader that they're working for. Yeah. What's that leader's thought on family? What's that leader's thought on balance? And that's where I think where majors probably struggle, because they may have their own individual thought and philosophy, but if it doesn't align with the person that they're working for, that's where I see the tension.
Yeah. Do you think command is a privilege or a requirement?
Whew, for me, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege. It's an honor,
Yeah.
right, to lead, our sons and daughters. And I would never want somebody to view it as a requirement, like a check to block.
Yeah.
Because I was working out yesterday morning and I got a call about somebody that didn't come to PT formation.
Mm-hmm.
Your day can be shifted so quickly in command, but I don't personalize the success and I don't personalize the failure. But it's truly an honor, though.
Yeah. The reason why I ask is because most majors, when they come to ILE, not most, but some, have experienced company command.
Yeah.
And based upon that experience, they have acknowledged the fact that they do not desire to command at the battalion or the brigade level.
Sure.
Have you seen that?
You do. So what I do in the 1st Infantry Division, every major that comes in, they get a 30-minute office call with me. Mm-hmm. And 75% of the office call is them talking, right? Mm-hmm. The other percent is me giving expectation. But the 75% of them talking is me understanding their goals, their dreams, their aspirations, right? Because I think if you understand the end state or the desire of an individual, then you can help them get there. And for the ones that just blatantly tell me, hey, sir, I'm not interested in battalion command, I don't shut them off. What I say is, what are you interested in? Yeah. And I can help you get to that track. Where I think, though, we can do better as an institution is taking a hard look at revising DAPAM 600-3. Yeah. Because the way we progress in the Army is centered around those key and developmental positions, i.e. command. Yeah. Should there be a staff track to make colonel? Maybe. But right now, we're not there based on each branch of service.
That's interesting because you talk about open communication.
Yeah.
A major expressing to you the fact that they do not have a desire. When I was in, that would be a kiss of death.
Yeah. To some leaders, it still may be, but I think that's a bad way of viewing it. Success is not what I think you should achieve. Mm-hmm. Success is what you want as an individual. Yeah. And it took me a while to mature to that level of thinking. I've had some mentors tell me, you will go to this duty station, you will take this job, right? And I listened to it for the most part, but I've also had some inflection points in life to where I said, hey, sir, I really appreciate that recommendation, but based on my family criteria and dynamics, we're gonna go this way. Yeah. And what I would hope is the leader that's mentoring that person would accept that and still continue to mentor them versus cutting them off.
Yeah. You mentioned the dual track. Some of our majors talk about this possibility of having a dual track where you focus in on command, you focus in on staff. What are your thoughts in regards to that?
So I think you got generalists and specialists, right? I think across the Army, when you start looking at our officer corps and our non-commissioned officer corps, our professional military education, it really does breed a generalist, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that there's some specialization that happens throughout our professional military education as well. And I think it's a hybrid approach, all right? I think it's a hybrid approach. However, though, when it comes to commanding a formation, that level of responsibility and authority, I do think there are mandatory knowledge, skills, behaviors that you have to have. And really, the biggest one is the desire to want to do it. Yeah. And if that means that you got to do certain jobs, then so be it. Yeah. But I think the first requirement needs to be the desire to want to command.
Yeah. Ken, for the audience, can you just tell us, how did you prepare for battalion command? What were some of the things that you did in order to make sure you were ready?
So it really starts with the 5 things that I talked about earlier. Me assessing myself on my own individual character, competence, commitment, being a team player and team builder. I made sure that I was mentally and physically fit. Mm-hmm. I had those tough conversations with my wife and my family about expectation. Mm-hmm. I sought mentorship from people that have already been into command based on the type of unit that I was going to command. And then I had to reflect, what am I good at? What is Colonel Rico Jones' strengths? What are the areas that I need to improve? Because I'm a firm believer that an organization would be good at what a leader's good at. Yeah. And the reflection piece is me doing self-reflection, but also asking some senior leaders that I work for, where do I have some holes in my swing? Yeah. And then I took the time to develop them. Yeah. And then lastly, and I'll tell everybody this, when I went through the Colonel's Command Assessment Program, CCAP, I did the counseling after CCAP, and I took the feedback from the psychiatrist, and that really helped shape my philosophy coming to Brigade Command.
Yeah. Is there a big difference between battalion and brigade, in your opinion?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'll just start with the level of experience. So as a battalion commander, I commanded a battalion out of Fort Bragg. The level of experience in years of service between me as a battalion commander and a company commander, the year gap can be anywhere between 8 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a brigade commander, the time and service difference between me and my battalion commanders, maybe 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's an executive relationship.
Yeah.
As a brigade commander, I call it the Cotter model, right? I'm establishing a sense of urgency and I'm building a guiding coalition.
Yeah.
I got to get buy-in from those battalion commanders. It's not a dictatorship,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's really the biggest difference, to where you got to be more direct, battalion to company. From brigade to battalion, it's truly an executive relationship.
Yeah. Functional relationships are important. What recommendations would you give an officer that's in battalion command in order to maintain that relationship with that brigade commander?
Yeah, so I think it first starts with, number one, being genuine, all right? No hidden agendas. I think when you're working for a leader, you got to understand commander's intent,
Yeah.
and you got to be able to execute with precision.
Yeah.
But then I think there's also an element of vulnerability that we as leaders got to be okay with. And what I mean by vulnerability, my battalion commanders are very open with telling me when they're not strong in something.
Yeah.
They're very open with telling me when they're struggling in a certain area.
Yeah.
And they're able to do that because I'm vulnerable. Hey, I don't have all the answers as a brigade commander.
Yeah.
But if you foster that culture, then you're creating a learning environment.
Yeah.
But I haven't always had that leadership.
Yeah. Climate.
100%.
What you're talking about, that's very important.
Yeah.
What have you done in your organization to improve or maintain a high command climate?
Yeah, well, it'll fluctuate, right? So I'm definitely not perfect. But I think the first thing that you got to do is you got to be able to assess. And your assessment has to go beyond just your leaders.
Yeah.
You got to have a touch point at echelon to get a good pulse. And that, for me, that's leader development with the audience that I have, from company command teams, field grades, battalion commanders, and all of my warrants. That's PT with the formation, to where soldiers have access to me.
Yeah.
We do a twice a year, what I call offsite, where we're away from Fort Riley. I'm bringing in soldiers, I'm bringing in leaders, and we're assessing all of our lines of effort. And that helps me right size the organization based off of it. And then you do your command climate surveys, right? Yeah. But it's not just doing the survey, it's the action plan afterwards. And with the action plan afterwards, I'm not just sending it to the division commander, I'm briefing the formation. And it's centered around certain dates and milestones, and they're able to hold me accountable for it.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, I'm gonna go a little bit off track. You mentioned CCAP.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about CCAP?
Wow, so I went through in 2020. First off, I think it's fair. I think it's consistent. And I think it's a game changer for the Army. When you start looking at assessments, unless you are an individual that has been through special mission units or things of that nature, we're not used to assessments. And I think what CCAP did was made us comfortable with being uncomfortable with getting assessed. Yeah. And I think that when you think about a leader, I call them the 4 R's, right? CCAP exposed relationships. Because the assessment, the surveys go 10 plus years. That's the first R. CCAP expose your reputation. How are you as a leader leading men and women? Yeah. CCAP expose your ability to read and write effectively. Yeah. Because you got to do the surveys and things of that nature. And then the last thing that CCAP exposes is what I call reflection. Yeah. A lot of times people surround themselves with people that tell them what they need to hear. I call it guardrails. When you're riding down a highway, a guardrail prevents you from getting to an accident. Yeah. Well, who are your guardrails in life to prevent you from getting an accident? Yeah. And what I took away from the CCAP is a lot of reflection. Yeah. Colonel Jones, you're not as good as you thought you were. Yeah. And here's some holes in your swing.
Well, I would tell you, some of the people that I mentor, minority officers, when you mention that it's fair, they have a different opinion.
Sure.
What they're saying is that based upon their experience, that there's a decline in minority officers being selected for battalion, brigade command.
Sure.
What are your thoughts about that?
So it's tough, right? Because I can't see based on each criteria what the weight is. Because I went through CCAP, here's what I would tell a minority officer. There are a couple of things that you own as an individual. Your physical fitness, you own. Those 4 R's that I talked about, you own, right? And if you view it from that standpoint, that it's the mindset shift. People go to CCAP because they think they're competing. I went to CCAP completing my peers. I went to CCAP with the mindset of, I'm on the list, I'm gonna stay on the list, and I'm not gonna overly compete with my peers. And I think when you view it from that mindset, it's not exposing anything that you don't already know. It's you. And if you view it from the lens of, I'm going there, I'm going to do the very best that I can do, and then I'm trusting the senior leaders above me to make the right selection. Because at the end of the day, I don't know how I came out on CCAP. I know I made brigade command, but what if I was at the very bottom? I'll never know that. You'll never know that. But all we see is ready for command, not ready for command. What we don't see is that squishy part in the middle.
Now, I will tell you, based upon my experience, the Army's culture is all about gaining results.
100%.
And I will tell you, when I was in the Army, it was all about results. Relationships, okay, it's good if you can get it.
Sure.
I believe that it's very difficult to change culture, that there's still that thought process that results matter.
Sure.
What recommendations would you give incoming majors when they're working with other majors?
In terms of being a good teammate?
Yes.
So I'll give you a couple examples, and you're right. At the end of the day, our ability to do our job and prepare for war is why we have an Army. In state, right? Defending our nation's freedom. But I also think there's an element of being a good teammate. Couple of examples. When a company commander in the DSB has a good product, all right, the first person that they send it to is not Colonel Jones. It used to be like that when I took command. Sir, take a look at this. Here's what we're doing down in the organization. And then the initial email will come just to me. And I go, man, Captain, because this is live, I won't say real names, but Captain Joe, oh, that's great. But on my reply, I put every company commander in the DSB on there. And I say, hey, man, this is great work you're doing. I want an exponential impact, not an individual company. Share it with your peers. It starts with us, right? If I'm fostering an environment where teamwork matters, they'll share. If I'm fostering an environment where you fight your way to be number one, then that's the culture that I'll have, right? So I think a lot of the ups and downs that we have in the Army is based on the center of gravity, which is what? Leaders. Leaders, right? And and I'm smarter than a 5th grader. I know if somebody is stood out, I know if somebody developed the product, but what I'm trying to teach them is to think bigger than yourself, to think bigger than your individual organization. And that has to start at the company grade level, or you'll reciprocate those same habits as a field grade.
Let's talk a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to rating field grades, majors. What is your philosophy? How do you view that?
So I think number one, you got to have one. And it needs to be brief to the formation. So all the personnel that are in my organization know the 5 things that I talked about are important to me: character, competence, commitment, being a team player, and team builder. They also know that the 2 T's matter to Colonel Jones: foster an environment of trust and treating everybody with dignity and respect. And then the 7 leader responsibilities that I assess every company commander on are training, maintenance, supply, mission support, leader development, command climate, and admin. So when I'm sitting down and I'm racking and stacking all of my company commanders, I go to those 5 plus 2 things I talked about. I go to those 7 leader responsibilities, and then I go to my assessment based on my touch points. Because see, what you don't want to be as a senior rater to say, oh, I haven't really seen them. That's a cop-out. I have to make myself available to really do an assessment.
Yeah.
So if there's company level training going on, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm assessing them during leader PT, you name it, right? But it's a known, it's brief to them. And then when I do quarterly counselings, watch out now, when I do quarterly counselings and I bring them in, we're talking about the 5+2, the 7 leader responsibilities. And I'm telling them where they are right now.
Yeah.
Right now, you're number blank of blank.
Yeah. You tell them that right
Up front.
up front.
Up front. When you get an OER as an officer, it should never be a surprise.
Yeah. I will tell you, after being in the Army 27 years, I've been counseled properly once. What are your thoughts on counseling?
I think it's bad, but I've had similar experiences.
Yeah.
What I would tell somebody watching,
Because it's very difficult to do.
it is, here's a TTP that I tell field grades now. First and foremost, when you go to an organization, you remember the letters of introduction back in the day? You do that letter, hey, you, this is me, I'm coming to your organization. When the last time somebody did that? I had a captain do that. I about fell out my chair 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I said, Sergeant Major, come here. I got a letter of introduction. He's like, what the hell are you talking about, sir?
Yeah.
And I showed it to my Sergeant Major,
Yeah.
right? It starts early communication, right? Then when a person comes to an organization, no matter if the senior leader wants it or not, get on their calendar
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
Sir or ma'am, what are your priorities? What are your focus areas? And then what I tell people when they say, well, I haven't been initial counseled, I say, get on your boss's calendar every quarter. Even if they have an initial counsel, guess what you say? Hey, sir, ma'am, based on your priorities, here are a couple things that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And you're consistently doing it.
Yeah.
Counseling or not, they know it matters to you.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the day, it's up to the individual leader if they're gonna do the right thing or not.
So you let them know, this is where I see you right now.
100%.
So those individuals that are at the bottom, do you see a change in their performance or behavior, or?
Some, if they take the tangible things that I say.
Yeah.
Some though, they don't, right? But then the next quarter I say, hey, we talk, because it doesn't change. I have the same document.
Yeah.
Last quarter we talked about CSDP. We talked about your ability to do this, this, and this. I saw improvement in this area. This one you've stayed the same.
Yeah.
I talked about this last quarter.
Yeah. Some commanders are afraid to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's very difficult. You talked about writing. What are some of the things you think that we can do to improve writing for our officers? And I'll give you an example, or trip reports, white papers.
Oh yeah.
We've gotten away, in my opinion, from having officers do that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So because I talked about those 4 R's, writing is extremely important.
Yes.
The Army culture is very PowerPoint driven.
Yes.
Man, you build a sexy PowerPoint slide, you're great. Well, at the senior levels, it's exums, it's point papers, right?
Yes.
So I think it starts early on with leader development programs of reading and writing assignments.
Yes.
We do trip reports in the DSB. So, hey, I want to go TDY here. Okay, great. You're going to give the commander a trip report. So now TDYs was, oh, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to go TDY now, right? But I truly think the only way that you really improve it is through the leader development program.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to ask this question because I want to see what we can do at CGSC in order to better prepare our majors. How would you assess the majors coming out of ILE into your unit?
Yeah. So the fundamental doctrine knowledge, I think they have. I think the fundamental understanding of big Army priorities they're nested with. Where I see some of our majors struggling is to be able to critically think and solve problems.
Yes.
All right? And being a critical thinker and a problem solver is important as a field grade officers. I think majors run divisions and I think colonels run the Army. And being able to critically think means you know how to think. Yeah. All right? And I think that's an area that we have to improve. I'd give you another one too, and we're getting better at it through the sustainment warfighting function. We have to embrace all of the tools at our disposal in terms of understanding the AI piece, understanding all of the different areas that civilian sector is using and leveraging to drive decisions, right? Yeah. And then the last piece I would say as far as an improvement is the majors that are coming now, their ability to understand the strategic enablers at their disposal to help drive readiness.
Yeah.
So if you're a sustainer, do you know the LCMCs that are tied to Army Materiel Command?
Yeah.
Do you know about TACOM?
Yeah.
Do you know about CCOM?
Yeah.
Because the problems at a division problems are complex, they're wicked problems.
Yeah.
And if you can't critically think, a division can't solve it by themselves.
Yeah.
You have to have other enablers. And that's where I think we can improve a little bit.
What are your thoughts about better preparing our field grades for the organic industrial base? Because a lot of times our majors, our captains, they try to stay at the tactical level because that's sexy.
Yeah, it's fun.
But as they move up the ladder,
Yeah.
they have no clue, no idea about
Yeah.
the industrial base. How do we solve that problem?
Yeah, so I think it starts with mentorship. I am what you just said. I have a very tactical background, right? Light time at Fort Bragg twice, heavy time has been Fort Riley along with 1st Cav. But I think it's a hard look at DAPAM 600-3 and how we promote. And I think it is identifying talent and managing talent similar to the BOD process that our senior sustainers do for our lieutenant colonels and our four birds. So imagine if you are a captain, you name the branch, and you have an identified mentor as soon as you pin captain. And that mentor is giving you diversification in terms of jobs and diversity of thought and things of that nature. That's the graduate level that we got to get to, because we're very stovepipe in thought process. If Sustainment Brigade commanders are the only ones that are able to get to the top, then you got to go that route. Or I would argue that the more diverse you are, it makes you more marketable, it makes you more value added to an organization.
I will tell you this, mentorship. A lot of our junior officers kind of gravitate to people that look like them when it comes to mentorship. For whatever reason. Do you think that because there are more white officers in higher levels of the Army, that they have a responsibility to mentor people that don't look like them in order to try to...
So I think that, number one, as a leader, you have an obligation, a duty to mentor all. Race, gender, whatever. But I also think for people watching, the subordinate, the mentee, has to be open-minded. So I give you an example. At Fort Bragg, with your buddy who's coming to my change of command tomorrow, they would do golf tournaments when I was a lieutenant. And guess what I would say? I'm from Kansas City, I don't play golf. That was a mentorship opportunity I missed out on because it was an area I wasn't strong in. So I was that lieutenant running around Fort Bragg talking about I'm not mentored. When the reality was there were several venues where I could have been mentored because I wasn't strong in it. I don't want to go there. So for personnel listening in, be comfortable with being uncomfortable in an area, a venue that you're not comfortable at, because that venue may lead to mentorship. I would also say that diversity of thought, diversity of branches are important as well. Some of my greatest mentors, male, female, and they're not all sustainment. They're maneuver, they're, you name the different branches. And then lastly, I think you have to seek it. I think that the days of thinking that leaders are just gonna seek you out is probably a bad practice. I think it's reciprocal. It goes both ways. And I'll end with this. There is an individual duty once you are getting mentored by somebody for you to keep that relationship in a warm status. And here's what I mean by warm status. There's a couple TTPs like sending quarterly check-in emails. Not the sky's falling, I need help. No, hey you, this is me. Here's how my family's doing. Here's how my job is going. I don't need anything. Where people think mentorship is help me because I'm in trouble.
And a lot of times they only contact you when they
that's
are in
crisis
trouble.
management. That ain't mentorship. Right? And then the last piece is it has to be authentic. And what I mean by that is if it's not a genuine relationship to where you're in uniform, you're not, that you would still want to communicate, then it's tough to foster those relationships. There are a lot of senior leaders that I send check-in emails to, but that doesn't mean they're my mentors. I have a duty to stay nested with senior leaders as a colonel, but I get to choose who mentors me, not the other way around.
Do you think mentorship should be forced upon an individual?
I think we should establish venues to where we expose it early, right? So what I was talking about with each branch of service, once somebody pins a certain rank, give them a designated mentor.
Yeah.
Right? Just like we do with some of our senior ranks.
Yeah.
I have a senior logistics mentor based on the logistics board of directors.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing that with captains
Yeah.
across multiple branches?
Yeah. I will tell you, I mentioned white males, but when I look at the military in general, black males are now progressing.
Absolutely.
Do they have a responsibility to reach out to people that don't look like them as well?
You have to.
Yeah.
And I'm very cognizant of it, right? I would argue that 60% of what I do as a DSB commander as far as calendar is tied to leader development and talent management.
Yeah.
Across multiple warfighting functions,
Yeah.
across multiple races, across multiple genders. And if we're not doing that holistically, then we're failing the formation.
Now, I'm going to go a little off track as well. Again, mentorship. Black females. When you look at sustainment, there's a lack of black female general officers. What advice would you give to young black female officers arriving at their unit in order to matriculate up the ladder?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is understand the culture of whatever organization you're in.
Mm-hmm.
The second is I would seek out, mentorship based on that branch of service. And then the third I would tell you is, and I do this a lot with some of my peers, I call it the mirror effect.
Yeah.
If I'm a African-American female and I want to be a Sustainment Brigade commander, I got to see it to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see it, right? So when I'm sitting down with females, no matter their race is irrelevant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hear they want to achieve a certain job, and I know somebody that does it, I immediately call them.
Mm-hmm.
I call Phoenicia Jackson all the time when I have females in my office.
Yeah.
I call Jennifer Kareem all the time when I have females in my office. Because I think that, I can mentor, but the mirror effect, to see somebody that looks like me, that's the icing on the cake. And then the last piece is that person has an obligation to follow up. Because see, what we think is the senior person is going to keep in contact with me. Yeah. Senior person is busy.
Busy, yeah.
You have to keep that relationship in a warm status.
Yeah.
And the last piece of advice that I would give a young female is you got to be willing to take the tough jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
If you want to get to a certain level in the Army, you don't get it by taking the easy jobs.
Yeah.
And don't personalize success and don't personalize failure.
Do you think our majors are capable of doing or leading MDMP? Did we do a good job at ILE with that?
It varies.
Yeah.
It varies. And I've had 2 iterations of different staffs. I think they understand the fundamental foundation, but I think that, at least for me, my first year as a brigade commander, you have to be involved in the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Commander's intents, me.
Yes. Yeah.
Key tasks, in-state, me.
Yeah.
COA Dev, I'm involved in it, right? So I think it's not necessarily that there's a knowledge gap. Leaders like myself have to be involved in the process in order for it to be successful.
Now, again, I'm going to go off track a little bit. Most of our MOSs are being transferred out of sustainment into the reserves.
Yeah.
Not fuel, but some of the critical MOSs.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
So it's tough. It's tough in terms of our ability to, do the freedom of maneuver, prolonged endurance, and extended operational reach to support the maneuver forces when the bulk of those assets are not, on active duty. Yeah. But here's what I will say, though. It's going to force the integration between the various compos, right? And where we can do a better job is not just integrating on the battlefield, but start integrating in a garrison fight. And the last piece that I would say is I think CASCOM, Army Materiel Command across the board are taking a hard look at the capabilities that we have now. Is this the right capability we need for 2030 and beyond? And I think what you start to see is some things that we do have that we're getting rid of may not be a need now. But the question is, how do you predict the need in the future? And that's where we have to be open-minded and stay nested.
Now, being a brigade commander, you had 2 years to actually look at sustainment.
Yeah.
What are some of your concerns or challenges?
There's a lot. Manning is a challenge. Extreme challenge across all DSBs. Some of our junior leaders working multiple levels up, levels of experience is a challenge. Purse tempo is a challenge. And notice I didn't say op tempo. As a sustainment brigade, the op tempo is always going to be pretty intense. Yeah. But purse tempo, though, what I'm talking about there is our ability to manage each individual as an individual. Mm-hmm. You know, some of the things we do as sustainers, like cadet summer training, CTC rotation, supporting DISCA missions, you name it, it's time away from families, mm-hmm. but that doesn't reset your dwell. Yeah. So taking a hard look at our ability to see each individual as an individual in terms of readiness. And then the last piece that I would say is our ability to really be integrated, not just at a CTC rotation, but getting that integration in a garrison environment.
Yeah. Which leads to my next question. Being a DSB commander, you're surrounded by maneuver.
Absolutely.
How do you build those relationships? What recommendations would you give to majors in order to tighten those relationships? Because you work with many people.
Oh, absolutely. I think that what I would tell a major is maneuver guys are always supported, mm-hmm. ED, mm-hmm. and we're always supporting, ING. Rule number one, understand your role. Mm-hmm. Rule number two, I would tell them is always have a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. A plan does not get developed in this division without a sustainer having a seat at the table. Yeah. You have to, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, a plan is not going to work because the sustainment warfighting function wasn't integrated. Yeah. And then I think the last piece is the margin for error as a sustainer is catastrophic if you do not know your job. Yeah. And credibility means a lot. Yeah. When a maneuver guy says they need and you deliver, it builds credibility. It builds a relationship, right? Yeah. But if you can't do that and you don't do that, then they don't see you as being value added.
Yeah. You know, some sustainers, they'll look at the brigade S4 job and then they'll check the block on that and then they'll move on to something else. Yeah. Based upon your experience, what jobs do you recommend for sustainers as they move up if they want to command at the battalion brigade level?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. You'll get me in trouble. What I would tell young officers now is that when you look at a brigade, a BCT4, you look at a SPO, you look at an XO, really what we're looking for is leadership. Mm-hmm. Right? Your ability to integrate and synchronize sustainment in support of the maneuver plan. Mm-hmm. I think each individual job give you different skill sets, but at the end of the day, mm-hmm. Your ability to meet commander's intent, mm-hmm. execute commander's intent with precision, and earn, not given, earn a good OER, you'll be set up for success mm-hmm. for command or whatever track you want to go. You know, it used to be a stigma back in the day that the Brigade S4 was a kiss of death. Yeah. And it used to be a stigma back in the day that if you've never been a SPO, you won't be a commander. Well, guess what? I've never been a Brigade 4. I've never been a SPO. And I'm about to change the DSB command tomorrow. Yeah. All right. I've taken every job that was given. I did my best. I met commander's intent, and I was a good teammate.
Yeah. Okay. One last question.
Okay.
For our majors, how do you define a major that's successful, one that's unsuccessful when you're doing your ratings?
Yeah, so the same 5+2 and that leader responsibilities I talked about, but I'll give you an analogy. So imagine you had a triangle, mm-hmm. right? And you had on the bottom of that triangle makers, identifiers, solvers, and preventers, all right? Some field grades, very few are problem makers, all right? Most field grades are problem identifiers. They can see a problem, right, about to happen. A small few, though, are problem solvers, right? But the MQ population can get ahead of it. They can anticipate it before it actually happens. And that goes back to my comment of being able to critically think and to solve problems. So for me, my assessment is that character, competence, commitment, team player, team builder, the 2 T's that I talked about. But then where are they at in that pendulum, right? Are they problem preventers? Are they anticipating? Are they problem identifiers? Are they problem solvers or are they problem makers? And what you'll find is most are in that identifier and solver category, which is not bad, right? But only a small few are preventers.
Yeah.
And that's my MQ population.
And I know you have to go, but I'm going to wrap this up. I want the audience to know that this commander right here has supported ILE, my program, and my elective for the last 2 years. And it is very, very difficult for a Sustainment Brigade commander to take time out of his busy schedule to come down and spend the whole day with my students, but this commander has done that. And I just want to, while I have you here, to take this opportunity to say thank you. I appreciate it. We need more leaders like you, and I wish the best. I hope you go forward in your career, because we need leaders like you. So thank you for all that you've done for ILE and for my elective.
No, it's my distinct honor. Those that are watching, strive for the band of excellence in everything you do. And I'll end with, I believe that great leaders are lifelong learners. Be a lifelong learner. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.